So the big news in Irish rugby, or one part of the big news kind of cycle in the last week, has been the Ireland men's sevens team, the program being shut down by the IRFU, and I suppose the continuing fallout from that, Birch. We've had ex-players like Harry McNulty speaking out against it, calling for a reversal of the decision. Ex-players' families and some of the current players' families calling for the same. People internationally wondering what's going on, particularly now that sevens is an Olympic sport. I know you were writing about this in your Sunday Independent column. So maybe catch up on where you stand on this issue at the moment, and your feelings around what needs to happen here next, rather than it just disappearing under the carpet and everyone moving on.
Yeah. So just like, I'm not a massive sevens fan. Okay. So like, just to be clear, I don't watch a lot of competitions. I always keep an eye on results, and I catch up on highlights, etc., because they're representing Ireland. They're representing Irish rugby. So for me, I am behind them, but I'm not like a sevens specialist, just to be clear on that. But having said that, I still think if we are, I think we started something 10 years ago, right, and we invested in it. And I think to the past playing group, they did something quite special in terms of bringing Ireland from nowhere to being well respected at the highest level of the international games. Obviously, 2 Olympics, and obviously Japan was disappointing, but Paris we were unbelievably close to being semi-finalists, and the only way sevens go, we could easily have medalled, and who knows what colour it was. So, and I was at Paris, and I see the power of the Olympics, and I'll be honest, I always knew the Olympics were huge. I'm not stupid, but I'm not as stupid as I look. But being part of Paris, it blew me away of how big this is, and even speaking to RTE, their viewership for the rugby part of the sevens was incredibly high. Like there's appetite for that, because there's a lot of rugby fans in Ireland, and they will support an Irish team at the highest level, and the Olympics are the highest level. So I think for me, if you're going to can that, you need to really be clear around, is it not meeting what the IRFU say is important to them? What does it cost every year, right? And the bottom line around what it costs us to have a team on that circuit, to have a team competing in World Series, have a team competing in Olympics, and then what are you going to do with the money that you save, and how effective is that going to be, right? So just, I think, to be honest, there's a lot of corporate bullshit around in rugby at the moment, right? And unfortunately, a lot of fans believe it is gospel, right? Believe it is gospel that people who are making these decisions are spending a huge amount of time and detail on making them, whatever. And maybe they are, right? But I'd like proof of it in this situation here. So, a comprehensive review, we're told that's what led to this decision. Maybe I'm being skeptical here, but I think the team this year were set up to fail, okay, in terms of what was put around them by the IRFU post-Olympics, right? So they lost some key players, and that's natural. That's natural from Olympic cycle. But the actual project that was put in front of them for this year, the support they had, the level of contracting they had, the level of players they had, was far inferior to what they had the year before, right? And it's led to some poor results. So the team has dropped off. And if you want to kill this off, if that's your plan, it's not easier to kill off something that's not successful right now, okay? And again, maybe this is just pure coincidence that the support dropped, and now we're hearing about the comprehensive review, and now we're hearing that they want to kill us on Monday or today. Sorry, they're going to tell the players today that they want to kill us, but they had to rush into that last week because Billy Dardis was asked about it at a Team Ireland event where he's vice chairman of the Athletes Commission. Okay, so he said he was worried about the level of investment in the sevens program, and I think from that they ended up having to expedite the communication, etc. And David Humphreys had to ring the players. So just around I just want to get this right. So basically, they say there's a comprehensive review, right? And you would think that the review. So what the IRFU are responsible for is delivering on the strategic plan, right? Okay, so that's the corporate stuff, right? But they have to be accountable to someone, because that's the IRFU's responsibility. The game isn't the IRFU's game. The game is everybody who's interested in rugby, right? Okay. So and they've stated that the strategic plan states rugby is a game for all, played in many formats, including 15 sevens, touch, tag, and mixed ability rugby, right? So they're not saying it's only the men's or the women's 15s, okay? It's sevens, touch, tag, and mixed ability. The way forward is through 4 strategic priorities, okay? And they are: 1, deliver great rugby experiences; 2, drive high performance ambition; 3, accelerate the women's game; and 4, inspire our fans. Okay, so they can't accelerate the women's game, the men's sevens, right? So that's out, right? But I would argue the other 3, there's a real strong chance that sevens can deliver a great rugby experience, right, for the people involved in it, okay? Because obviously it's a chance to represent your country, for their families, for their clubs, okay, for their schools, okay? It does develop that. Is it driving high performance ambition? Yes, it is. Any sport that you can beat, any rugby, any mode of rugby that you can beat the All Black or the New Zealand, the Fijians, the South Africans, etc., Australia, is high performance, right? So I think it does fit that, right? And then the last one, inspiring our fans. I absolutely think it can, right? And whether that's winning at Hong Kong or medaling at a World Series or whatever it is, even if it's only the expats who get to be there, right? If it's only expats who get to be there, I think it can inspire fans, because you, Murray, on a Monday pod, if they've done something special, we'll talk about it, and we know what people, right? Whether that's millions of people or hundreds of people, for me, it does inspire fans. So I would say that there's potential there for them to hit 3 of the 4 strategic priorities, and the other one they can't hit it because it's the other sex. So if a comprehensive review has happened, right, a comprehensive review for me is it's multifaceted, right? But I would absolutely say you have to speak to past players, current players, members of the backroom team, right? Because they're the people who are in it, right? And they can tell you what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, what are the blockages, and what could work well in the future. You would imagine a review takes in those, because they are one of the key stakeholders. The other ones are the sponsors. So Triton Lake have been very good supporters of sevens. It's my understanding that they haven't had a huge amount of communication as part of this review, right? Sport Ireland and Olympic Federation of Ireland, I'm not 100% sure of what level, but you would hope that there's a detailed report and exchange with both of those, because both of those fund this program or co-fund this program. Sport Ireland every year, and Olympic Federation of Ireland, particularly the year of the Olympic cycle. And I said, I have lots of dealings with both of those through my job in Horse Sport Ireland, or had in the last year. So for me, that's going to be fascinating. I know it's been very ex-players coming out, and the parents have written a document. I think the current players are very conscious of the fact they're contracted until the 1st of August, right? And they want to have that meeting today, I would imagine, to not spoil their copybook and hear all the reasons, right? And I think the last thing I'd love to see is, what is the net cost, right? So if you take in the donation, the money from World Rugby for being on the tour, the sponsorship of Triton Lake, the money from Sport Ireland, the money from the OFI, what is the gap? Is it 2 million? It was 2. So the narrative from the IRFU, or how it's being painted to me, is, but you want stronger provinces, right? And I do want stronger provinces, right? Whatever. And this is going to make the provinces stronger, because more money will go into the provinces. Well, how much, right? If it's 2 million, that's $500,000 each province, right? Okay. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? Where's that going to be spent? Right? What's that going to? How is that going to affect Connacht, Ulster, and Munster next year? Whatever. If it's 500,000, that's going to be saved. That's 125,000 each, right? Now, even in the Dragons, when I was there, and our budget was 3.8 million, 125 grand. It's lovely to have it. I don't think it changes the picture massively for the other provinces, right? But again, at least then, if you know all this stuff, you can make a clear decision. Does that make sense, more? I'm not saying that the IRFU can it. They can do whatever they want. No. They can do whatever they want, right? But please make it be based on an actual comprehensive review, right? And maybe factoring in, maybe, and it's hard to quantify this, but actually factoring in, like I've seen this, like there's countries that support a program for 4 years just to have an Olympian, never like not even be competitive at the Olympics, but they understand the value and the pride and the effect that has on the community, etc., to have an Olympian, right? So I would say that the fact that sevens is now an Olympic sport, and we genuinely could medal at the next Olympics, right? We genuinely could medal in both. Obviously, the women's aren't up for discussion here. For the men's, if we supported the program properly. So, my fear is that this decision was probably made. I wonder, and I'm speculating here, like, was this something that people felt was David Nucifor's baby in the IRFU, and they maybe wanted to get rid of it a while before this, whatever. I don't know, but it just seems that post Paris, the program hasn't been properly supported this year with no real plan, and that creates, like we've seen in other provinces this year, maybe a lack of real belief in what you're doing, and then the results drop, and it looks like it's easier to kill it. So yeah, all those things for me are just questions I want to hear answered. You know what I mean? I think we all, as part of the IRFU, we have the right to ask those questions.
And they're not particularly demanding. You're not asking for a lot there.
No.
It's just a little bit more clarity and pretty basic information, I would suggest, and hopefully we will get that. I mean, there'll have to be some sort of. Obviously, they're doing with the players today, and they'll get a bit more clarity. Hopefully, it won't be satisfying. It'll be devastating because they've lost their jobs and they're going to have to deal with that now. And some of them are absolutely reeling from this. Of course they are, because their dream of continuing as a full-time sevens player and potentially doing other things, going to the Olympics game are gone. And others who hope to follow in their tracks are going to be devastated at the moment. But hopefully there'll be a bit more clarity around what's going to happen. The Olympics element of it is what makes this so unique as well. Like, that wasn't always on the cards, and now it is for rugby, and it's a new strand to it that's probably what's been lingering with me over recent days, is that, like, this is an unbelievably cool and unique and amazing thing, both in terms of what the people involved can do, but also what it can offer to rugby in terms of a exposure. It was amazing last year, and that's why I've been so surprised at how it's kind of fallen off from there. And that's in World Rugby's court as well, and they've remodeled the series, and they need to still figure that out and be more profitable. But to have the Olympics there as a card is, I'm struggling to understand why you would write that off now, because actually, as it turns out, Ireland could relaunch their program in 2027. They just have to go into Rugby Europe, and they could actually qualify as late as that. They could qualify into the 2028 games, restarting in 2027. So I don't know why you would just kind of, and it seems at the moment there's no plan in place for that. So I hope that will change. That's potentially on the cards. Because even if you had a kind of reduced program for a couple of years and then bumped it up and resourced it more strongly at that stage, you can go to an Olympic Games and create some magical memories and sell your sport as well and be part of that celebration. So I don't know why you kind of shut off that avenue in particular, whatever about the series and its sustainability. So yeah, I guess we wait now, Birch, and try and hear more about what happens in that meeting on Monday, and hope that we'll get a bit more from the IRFU. But I suppose history tells us that those reviews never get published. Sometimes we'll get a kind of some summation of it from the performance director, and they tend to just move on with these things. So I guess you're not holding your breath either.